We welcome you into the Week in Review. I am Brad Logan, co-host here on the Talk of Champions, and happy Sunday afternoon. I thought I could come to you today, kind of getting you set for next week as we're a couple of weeks away from kickoff in Nashville, and just kind of go over a couple of things that went over this past week, tell you about what's coming up over the next couple of weeks as we get you ready for kickoff on Sunday, September the 6th. Also, replay some interviews that we had over the last couple of weeks, getting ready to preview. Most importantly, we visit with Charlotte, Louisville, LSU, Vanderbilt. Who else do we have? Texas, Auburn. So bringing you a couple of those interviews on a Sunday afternoon, just kind of whetting your appetite as it's kickoff in a couple of weeks on Sunday, September the 6th, and it cannot get here soon enough. If you're watching and you're following along on YouTube, I encourage you to take a look at the screen. We'll be at the Ole Miss Takeover hosted by the Ole Miss Alumni Association. That will happen from 2 until 4. We will be live from Barstool, Nashville. Ben Garrett and I will be live on Broadway. I encourage you to go by or come by and see us. In order to do that, we're going to need you to do a couple of things. Number one, go to OleMissAlumni.com. That's where you can secure your tickets for the event. We look forward to you coming by and saying hello to Ben Garrett and I as we'll be live the first time of the year as it's Ole Miss Takeover, Barstool, Nashville. Before we get to there, the Thursday prior to that, I guess that will be September the – gosh, my math is not great. So September the 2nd maybe. We'll be live on location from 5 until 6:30 at the College Corner store. That's, of course, located on Sisk Avenue right there in Oxford. So encourage you to come by and see us as we will be at the Oxford location. So excited to partner with Scott Wern and the Ole Miss, or should I say, your spot for Ole Miss gear, but Scott Wern and the College Corner store located right there on Sisk Avenue in Oxford. Appreciate all of you jumping on. We'll get to your comments here in just a little bit as Tommy's right. Excited to see what a Golding team looks like this season. I agree, Tommy. I'm really excited to see Pete in his first season and have an opportunity to see what he can do when he's got all of his coaches in line, the players that he brought over. Obviously, high school recruiting is going really good, and so excited to see what Pete can do. Didn't have a ton of practice availability this year. One thing we will say, practice wasn't made available to the media this past Friday around 11 o'clock. I wasn't able to be there. I have not been able to be at a lot of practices this year. There's only been a couple of media availabilities. I was at the very first one on media day, but Chuck Rounsaville and Ben Garrett, both of the Ole Miss Spirit. You see that QR code right above my head there. You can join the Ole Miss Spirit today. Chock full of information specifically about practice and about people that have shined. I have heard that a couple of names in the wide receiver room, just as of yesterday, Traylon Ray, along with Samari Reed. You've heard Ben talk about him if you follow along on the Talk of Champions here. The wide receiver room is definitely a room to where it's one that, for me, has been a bit of a cause of concern because of the uncertainty. Once again, I kind of fall back on what Pete Golding said about the wide receiver room. If you remember, Deshaun Stribling, Trey Wallace are names that we didn't talk about a lot at this time last year. So we all know we now Deshaun Stribling, of course, is lining it up for the 49ers. So we know that the opportunity is there for some guys on the roster. Of course, you look at the roster, it is littered with talent. And there are other receivers that have really had a really good preseason camp. You look at, obviously, Deuce Alexander has been great. Jonte Cook. Horatio Fields is a name that has been really good for Ole Miss during preseason camp, I am told. So the wide receiver room definitely something we'll all be watching for in a couple of weeks on Sunday night in Nashville. I think another room that we're excited about seeing is the linebacker room. We know that Luke Farrelly and we know that Keaton Thomas are really good. We know that Tajay Butler is someone that we're excited about seeing. What about that next level? Obviously, Butler would be a piece of that. But I think if you look at names like Tony Mitchell, I went back and watched the Egg Bowl from last year. And one thing I encourage all of you to do, if you're like me, you're just thirsty for football, one thing I've done is ESPN does a terrific job of breaking down a complete game in about 15 minutes. And so you can go back and watch the entire season, pretty quickly. And I've had the opportunity to kind of sit down and go through and watch some games from last year and That's the one thing that jumped out to me at the Egg Bowl was Tony Mitchell was a pretty vibrant linebacker. Back then it was Cameron Holzer. I think it's Cameron Holzer. I think I'm saying that right. If I'm not, please forgive me. Zach Arnett's the new defensive coordinator now. And so we'll talk with Brian Haydad this week on Thursday, the show for the 2:00 show. And we're excited to preview Mississippi State. We'll also have Allie Peak Wilbur talking about Florida. And then we've got some other previews coming this week. So excited to get all of our team previews done this week, as we'll hear from different previews here in just a moment that we've had over the last couple of weeks. Want to make sure kind of the Sunday show is one that we like to do. It's a little more laid back. It's not quite as buttoned up, and it kind of gives you an opportunity to kind of jump in here and we can talk some football just kind of loosely and get ready for the season. As Napoleon, Hotty Toddy, Pascagoula in Mississippi. From Pascagoula. Did we just get a center from Florida? I don't know. I'll have to look and see. But appreciate you jumping in the chat. And, excited to see the season in a couple of weeks. By the way, Sawyer, I am in the studio today. And we're excited that we're going to work with Sawyer, by the way, on we're working on some T-shirts and some merchandise for you so you can all flaunt the talk of champions wherever you are. So Sawyer will be in touch. I know Ben has talked to you about that. Appreciate everybody jumping on. And so, practice is going well. If you'll go to the Ole Miss Spirit right now, there is a thread in which they scrimmage a lot, obviously, but they're very, very careful about, how much they not going to take anybody to the ground or do anything like that, get anybody injured. So obviously they're very careful about that. But there's a thread right now. Chuck Rounsville, the Ole Miss Spirit, has a thread about kind of where the team is and where they are from a number standpoint, some players that have shined at different positions. Look, I'm just like you. We're not going to see the team. The media is not going to be able to see the team. Nobody's going to be able to see the team in official capacity until we all see them in 2 weeks in Nashville. So I'm just like you. I'm looking at the right tackle. Who's going to start? I think it's probably Tommy Kinsler. But if you told me it was Carius Kern, I wouldn't be surprised. So, I've heard he's kind of been off and on. Obviously, the interior of that offensive line is something that we've talked about a lot on this show. But having Delano Townsend and Patrick Kudas there on each end of the guard spots, and then, of course, Bryson Sanders at center, and then left tackle, Therese Davis has kind of anchored that. The depth there is obviously something we'll be watching. But as Chuck pointed out, we'll hear from Chuck in just a little bit. Chuck joined us last week. I want to replay that interview that we had with him. He's really good. And one thing that I really didn't think about is Chuck made a good point. John Garrison is not someone that's going to roll in a whole lot of offensive linemen. He's going to bring in offensive linemen, and as we know, last year he stuck with the top five, and had a couple of swing players, but at the most part, he stuck with the five. So we'll hear from Chuck in just a little bit. But at the end of the day, my goodness, it seems like every year we get excited for football, and every year it just creeps by in the latter part of August. So there will be college football on Saturday. So as we begin this beautiful Sunday, as we come to you here on Sunday afternoon from the studio, I'm grateful I'm in the studio today. But we're just ready for kickoff, and I'm just like everybody else. I'm ready to kick it off too, and I'm ready to see everybody in Nashville. Please come by and see us. Once again, we're going to be at the Barstool event. That's going to be taking place on September the 6th on game day from 2 until 4. And, of course, all of our sponsors led by our Thailand presenting sponsor of Allen Samuels, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, leading all of our coverage from Nashville. And everybody's asking in the chat, what are we going to do during the season? Okay. Obviously, our post-game show is going to be very similar to last year. We're going to be live on location from Vaught Hemingway Stadium. Last year, we were in the press box. But last year, we joined you. It was a good hour after the game, or 45 minutes-ish, because we would go to the press conference. Now, I will tell you, it's kind of a work in progress, but we're going to be joining you immediately after the game. Someone will be in the press conference, and the other person will probably be anchoring the coverage along with, we'll have someone on the field, and we're probably going to do our show from the field. So that way, whoever is at the press conference, whether it be Ben or I, we will join the other person on the field. And that's where we will have our show this year. So we have a lot more newer equipment, if you will. And so we're able to probably do that. Now, the pregame show is something that we've worked really, really hard on. And we have it finalized, but we cannot go into grave detail about the location and, where it is. We do know this. It will be 2 hours, but it will not coincide with the radio network show. And the reason I'm doing that is, number one, out of the respect for Learfield and out of the respect for my friends Gary Darby and Brett Norsworthy, because we want you to enjoy their show. And they do a wonderful job. And on top of that, they go to the studio, not the studio, obviously Dan Court's in the studio, but they go up to the press box and they talk to David and Harry Harrison, who's been a great friend of the show. So we're going to respect Learfield, and we're going to be live before them. So don't know what times that will be. That will be before them. Secondly, it'll also be video, and it will be live on location. So we'll be live from Charlotte for the Charlotte game in Oxford. We'll have you more details about when and where that will be. So we're excited to bring all of that to you. Heath, thank you. We couldn't do what we do without all of you. I mean, we got so many folks that enjoy watching the show and following along. But I say this a lot, and this kind of why I like to do the Sunday show, because I can kind of ramble a little bit and we can kind of talk back and forth. And that's why I enjoy this. I don't think really anybody really cares, for the most part, what I have to say. I mean, I think they do truly care what Ben has to say. He's been on the show. He's been on the beat, I should say, for a long time. I think his opinion matters. I don't know that I think mine has a ton of value, and that's okay. What I add to the show is trying to direct things. I like to interview people, and in many ways, when you'll see the interview, you'll hear me ask a question and kind of get out of the way, and that's why I'm excited about getting to hear from the folks that we're going to talk to here in just a little bit. So I truly think that's what my role is, and that's what I enjoy about this show. And it's funny, when I'm interviewing someone, I put myself, because I was there on the outside looking in, what would I like to know? What do I want to know about Oklahoma's offense this year? That's when I asked George. I mean, if there's something I wanted to know, I would ask him, and I had all my questions prepared. So excited about getting to those. But that's just kind of where I am with this. And I'll be honest, it really has been a lot of fun. It truly has. I will tell you, we have efforted a couple of people for the show. We have efforted pitching coach Joel Mangrum, and we're hoping to get him on. And what we'd like to do is have some guests for our show from the College Corner store. Once again, if you're just joining us, we're going to have a show on the Thursday prior to the Monday game against Louisville. So I guess that would be September the 2nd. Anyway, it's going to be on that Thursday night from 5 until 6:30 or 7. It's at the College Corner store location in Northeast Oxford. So it's out on the Sisk Avenue. So I encourage you to come join us. And, of course, the pregame show at Barstool. Really, again, just want to say thank you and provide you guys some updates from this week. And once again, if you're not a member of the Ole Miss Spirit, we encourage you to be a member. And the QR code right above my head to my right, you can join the Ole Miss Spirit. Right there is a thread about the practices. Chuck Rounsville gives his thoughts on players that are shining, players that are kind of stepping up. And so we encourage you to join us there at omspirit.com. Secondly, we couldn't do what we do without all of our sponsors. We'll hear from them in just a moment. But we really appreciate Adam Samuels, Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram for being our title and presenting sponsor. We have just acquired 3 new sponsors. They will begin with us probably in the next week or so. We're working on their ads, and they're definitely going to start for the month of September. But we're trying to get everything worked out to where they will be able to join us here for the latter part of the month of August. But we have 3 new sponsors, and we're so excited that they're on board with us. Couldn't do what we do without all of our sponsors. And then all of you. If you look right below us, you'll see all of these interviews that we've been able to do. Being Gary and I here on the Talk of Champions, you can click on those and watch anything that we have on demand. Secondly, if you like doing the audio part of this, we appreciate jump on the Apple Podcasts. You can also go to Amazon, of course, and then iHeartRadio. wherever you get your podcast. The audio portion is there for you as well. Subscribe to that, rate it and review it. Don't care what you say, but obviously just appreciate you rating and reviewing. We'll take just for a second. In regards to our YouTube folks that are watching and also on Facebook, hit the bell right below us. That time, anytime we are live during the week, it will notify you. We like to be live around 2 o'clock, but it's hard for me to be live at 2 o'clock during the day sometime with my job. So in many ways, you'll see me on the show, but it's actually me having a recorded segment with someone because I work during the weekends getting a ton of interviews so I can help out with the show when I'm not able to be on live. But obviously, we'll be live on location every single Saturday, and then sometimes during the week whenever I can catch a minute. But we're going to start today's interview process with Hunt Palmer of LSU. Hunt joined us to talk about the Tigers, and that's going to be a big one in a couple of weeks. And we're excited that Hunt joined us, and love to get his thoughts about what to expect with LSU. Hunt Palmer will join us right after this timeout as we hear from some of our sponsors here on the Talk of Champions.
Licensed, insured, and certified, Riverland Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your Riverland Roofing can do for you and the community. Call them at 662-644-4297 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford presents the all-new Ram Rebel. It's the Rebel way. Send an unmistakable signal. Rebel 24/7. Ram Rebel from your friend in the car business. Alan Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford.
Come by, let's be friends.
Tell my kids, you do your part, I'll do mine. That's teamwork. It's the same.
Riverland Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs.
Hey, Rebels, your truck is here. Alan Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford presents the all-new Ram Rebel. It's Ram, the Rebel way. Send an unmistakable signal. Rebel 24/7. Ram Rebel from your friend in the car business. Alan Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford.
Come by, let's be friends.
Tell my kids, you do your part, I'll do mine. That's teamwork. It's the same thing I tell my clients. It's their job to get well. It's my job to get them the most money possible to do just that. I want you to get back to enjoying the life we all love here in North Mississippi. If you're hurt in a traffic accident, an 18-wheeler wreck, or have insurance trouble, call 601-720-3541. That's my cell. If you call, I'll answer.
Make your first call to the Hearn Law Firm.
One team, one mission, introducing one plan that changes the rules. The One Plan, fiber and wireless for $99 a month. One plan, one price, zero compromises, guaranteed. The One Plan for everyone, only from C-Spire, customer inspired.
Life is made up of moments. We care about those moments as much as you do. We are Modern Woodmen, a fraternal financial services organization, member-owned, not stockholder-run. Since 1883, we've supported families, strengthened communities, and helped people reach their financial goals. From protection to saving to retirement planning, let us help you plan for those special moments in your life. We are Modern Woodmen of America.
And it is time to talk LSU football, and nobody any better than Hunt Palmer of 104.5 ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge. Hunt, great meeting you in Tampa, and great to catch up here to talk a little football.
Absolutely. Right back at you, Brad. Great to catch up. They'll play eventually here. We're still going through the minutia of practice, but we'll eventually get to kick off.
You know, we were meeting a little bit in production, and we both agree that there's something that both Ole Miss Ole Miss and LSU have in common. It's currently really hot where we're located. So that's definitely true. I'd love to talk kind of about the Tigers, about how the roster makeup, you know, Lane Kiffin coming in from Ole Miss, bringing a number of coaches with him. How is the roster right now, in your opinion, and do you think he really likes his team?
I think he does. I mean, it's a roster full of transplants. Everybody in Oxford, Mississippi is well aware of how that works, especially when you've got a coaching change. They kept some continuity on defense, but the offense is essentially fully remade outside of a couple of offensive linemen and a star tight end. I don't have a great feel for the roster because Lane Kiffin is not giving us a lot of access. That's okay. Brian Kelly gave us a ton and didn't win a lot of games, so it doesn't matter. We get about 12 minutes. We see him run through some cones, hit some dummies, and then we're out of there. So it's not as good a look as we got last year, but they certainly have some guys that are projected to be drafted high. They've got a lot of guys who've gotten some preseason recognition. There's plenty of talent. There are some question marks as well, but I think he thinks he's got a pretty good team.
Everybody's kind of talking about quarterback Sam Leavitt. So many people I know have talked about the game when Arizona State played Mississippi State. I'll push back and say, yeah, but what about all the other games to when he looked really good? He's dealing with a bit of an injury. We're seeing some highlights here via LSU social media channels. Your thoughts on Sam Leavitt, and do you think he's the guy right now for LSU?
There's no question he's the guy. We saw him a lot in the spring. He wore tennis shoes for the first couple of practices, did some handoffs and some light throwing, and then he got the pins removed from his foot with that Liz Frank surgery and didn't do anything the rest of spring. He was, we're told, cleared early in the summer. We were told he was running 21 miles an hour. He showed a video of himself on social media, windmill dunking through the goalposts. And now we've been out there for some fall camp, and it's not 11 on 11. It's not even 7 on 7, but he's fully dressed out. He's leading the team through the drills. He's jogging around drill to drill. We're obviously not seeing him evade any pass rushes or run wind sprints or anything, but by all accounts, he's healthy. He said he's healthy, and I think that's true. That surgery was around Halloween, so we're 10 months out from that about. So I think he's ready to go. How good he is, how acclimated he is to the Ole Miss offense that Lane Kiffin has now brought to LSU, we'll see. But Trinidad Chambliss seemed to pick that up pretty well with the summer in Oxford last year, so that's kind of the parallel that Lane Kiffin has drawn. He had a great supporting cast as a redshirt freshman at Arizona State. Cam Scatteraboo ran for 1,700 yards. Obviously, Jordan Tyson was a top 10 pick of the Saints. He was the number one receiver on those two teams. So that was a good supporting cast, good coaching staff, and a lesser conference in the Big 12. There are reasons to question Sam Leavitt in this offense. There are reasons to think he'll be really, really good. I tend to think he'll be a really solid SEC quarterback, and if he ascends to higher than that, I think LSU's got a chance to be a contender.
A name that Ole Miss fans and LSU fans alike remember a lot, and that's Harlan Berry at running back. Where's the running back room right now, Hunt, in regards to any type of particular modified depth chart, if you will?
So that's a rare instance where LSU has some continuity. Caden Durham's been the leading rusher on the team the last 2 years as a freshman and a sophomore. He's back as a junior, and Harlan Berry was the number one prep back in the country a year ago coming out of New Orleans, St. Martin's. And he's back. So you've got the two guys that were kind of your lead backs last year, and then you brought in 3 transfers. The leader of that group is Dylan Jones, who comes from Wisconsin. And I believe Dylan Jones is starting running back on this team. I think he is inching towards winning that job. Now, whether that means he gets 85% of the carries or 60% of the carries or 50% of the carries, I'm not sure how they'll divvy it up, but I think Jones has inched his way to the front of that. And he's not some diamond in the rough that the staff found. This is a former top 10 running back in the country by ESPN and 24/7 when he was coming out of high school, had offers from Penn State and Michigan and Auburn, and ended up at Wisconsin and won the starting job at Wisconsin as a sophomore. Then he got hurt 6 games in, and they weren't very good. But he comes in, he's more physical than Berry or Durham. He's got 3 inches on Durham. He's got 25 pounds on Berry. And I think he has established himself as the lead back. Durham's going to play, and Barry is certainly going to play. But I think Jones has asserted himself, and I expect to see him out there early against Clemson.
I talked to your coworker, Matt Moscona, down in Tampa, and he says that Bo Bordelon, I think I'm saying that correctly, was in a battle is the right word, but kind of Devin Harper, the transfer from Ole Miss. That's kind of what Ole Miss fans were wondering. How is Devin Harper doing in the acclimation headed over to LSU? Do you anticipate him starting or playing, and how does the offensive line set up this year?
So we got some 11 on 11 in the spring. He did give us a lot of spring access. That was a welcome surprise for us. And we saw a lot of 11 on 11. In the first 3 days, Devin Harper was the starting left guard. And then the fourth day, Bo Bordelon was the starting left guard, and Bo Bordelon was the starting left guard the rest of the days. He is a fifth-year senior. He is a legacy player. His dad was an offensive lineman at LSU, who has become a very, very successful business person in New Orleans and was actually involved in LSU's coaching search, a member of that group that they put together to help go find the next coach, which, of course, ended up being Lane Kiffin. But that hasn't mean he was a guy that started. He started one game in 4 years, and that was a Texas Bowl where 3 offensive linemen opted out. That's the only game he started. But he's worked his way to the starting left guard position, and I expect him to be the starting left guard against Clemson. Of course, they made a big transfer portal addition at left tackle with Jordan Seaton, who's former 5-star, was at Colorado, is probably going to be a top 20 pick in the NFL draft coming up after this year. He's a really, really good left tackle. They bring back the center in Braylon Moore, who was the only good offensive lineman on the team last year, and he was hurt pretty much the entire year. He's a 3-year starter, 2 years at Virginia Tech and 1 year at LSU, so that's a solid spot for him. They went and got Alu Ba, who's going to play right guard for him. He signed with Georgia and played there for a year, transferred to Maryland and was a starter there. He's like 6'5", 330, and is really big and physical. And then at right tackle, it's a question. Weston Davis is a former 5-star recruit. He started at right tackle last year, did not have a good year at all. His redshirt freshman was beat like a drum consistently. I write a Pro Football Focus update every Sunday after the games. Some people love that metric. Some people hate it. But consistently, you're talking about a guy that was rated in the 30s, 40s, just the lowest rated offensive lineman on the team for LSU last year. Talented, had better games late in the year than he did early in the season, but they got a question at right tackle, and Devin Harper may factor in there. He was working yesterday when we went out there they were doing some sled drills. He was working as a second-team right tackle. I think he's probably the 6th guy right now, but I'm not 100% sure of that. He certainly wouldn't go in and play center if they lost Braylon Moore, but I think at either guard spot and potentially right tackle, he might be the next guy up.
This is probably not a very good question, but I have to ask it anyway. How good is Jordan Seaton? We followed that recruiting. I mean, he had a cup of coffee at Mississippi State during a visit. I don't know where all the guy visited, but it was all over the place. LSU eventually would get his signature. But how good is he, in your opinion?
He reminds me of Will Campbell, who was a top 6 pick. They are both tall and lean. Seaton got longer arms. That was a big deal with Campbell when he got drafted in the first round, that he had short arms. And he struggled a little bit on a Super Bowl team, but as a left tackle for the Patriots. But they did some pass rush drills in the spring. It's one of those deals where he gets his hands on those guys and they just stop. They just stop cold. Now, again, Pro Football Focus is not everybody's cup of tea, and I get that. But his Pro Football Focus run game grades were not great at Colorado. Now, Colorado had no interest in running the ball when Shedeur Sanders was there, and have not been a very physical football team in the Deion Sanders era. They got the flashy guys on the perimeter, and they don't run it a lot. So maybe that's something that he gets better at LSU with some offensive line coaching. But great pass protector, great athlete, every measurable you want, and needs to work on himself in the run game. I will tell you this, and it's something that I thought was noteworthy. He dropped about 18 to 20 pounds between the end of Colorado's season and spring football last year, which I'm not sure if that's a great thing or a not so great thing for him as far as his play goes. What I will say is it shows a commitment. Like, he obviously intentionally did that. So I have reason to believe they've got a really good left tackle, especially in the pass protection side of things.
Do you think Blake Baker has kind of stocked the cupboard a little bit on defense? Last year LSU kind of struggled defensively. You've got the addition of Ed Ogeron. We saw the let's just say the laced conversation on social media of Coach Ogeron is back. I think we can say, Hunt, he is back. What do you think about this defense and who jumps out at you? Obviously, the transfer, T.J. Daugherty from Ole Miss at linebacker. Do you anticipate him playing a lot, and your thoughts on the defense?
Yeah, Blake Baker inherited the number 107 defense in the country. They were atrocious in Jaden Daniels' Heisman year in 2023. And I mean, y'all saw it up close and personal in Oxford when nobody could stop anybody for 4.5 hours. It was just an awful defense. And over the course of 2 years, he's gotten them to number 26 in the country last year, where they finished in total defense. So he stabilized things. They weren't great last year. They didn't do a great job defensively against Ole Miss. They didn't do a great job against Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt. They were awful in the second half against Texas A&M. They had their issues. They weren't great, but they've gotten a lot better. They've got really, really good players at a lot of levels. I mean, I think obviously Prince William Owens is a solid player at one edge. Weeks and TJ Daugherty have both been in the top 2 in the SEC in tackles the last couple of years. So is Devon Keys, who was second last year. I don't think any of those guys are first-round picks or All-Americans, but they're high floor players at linebacker, and their secondary is immensely talented. DJ Pickett's a 6'5" corner, which you don't ever see. He was a 5-star that Corey Raymond found and brought him in. He started as a freshman last year and should be great. Other side's PJ Woodland from the state of Mississippi, who's become a really good player for him. I think Todd Benefield is the guy that everyone's going to know by the time Halloween rolls around at LSU. He is a safety from Boise. His dad played 14 years in the CFL and a year in the NFL. He's 6'2" and was all over the place for Boise State, making tackles, interceptions, TFLs. I think he can be a first, second, third-round pick, and I think he's going to be a star at LSU at safety, and Tamarcus Cooley returns. The questions on defense are this, and there are two. One, they got Woodland and Pickett on the corners who are really good. Behind that, I don't know what they have. They've got Jakeem Jackson, who's a fourth-year college player who hasn't really played. Their fourth corner, Aiden Anning, blew his Achilles, so he's not there. And then you got some freshmen. So, they don't have any depth at corner. Their top 2 are great. After that, I'm not sure. And then we were out there when they ran an 11-man shell drill on defense briefly last week, and the top 2 defensive tackles are true freshmen. Now, they're incredibly highly heralded true freshmen. Deuce Gerald's dad played at Ole Miss. He's from Baton Rouge. His dad's from Baton Rouge, played at Ole Miss, and he has made waves since the spring. I think he's going to start. And then Richard Anderson was a 5-star and a top 15, 20 player in the country out of New Orleans, but they're freshmen, a defensive tackle. That's not, in my estimation, an ideal way to go into a season. They've got some experienced guys, Dominic McKinley and Stephon Green from Clemson and Malik Blockton from Auburn, and those guys started at Clemson and Auburn last year. And maybe the freshmen are just that good to beat them out. But I've got my antenna up when you throw 2 true freshmen out there, defensive tackle. That does not appear to me to be a winning formula.
You look at the schedule, and you mentioned Clemson. That appears to be a really big game. Obviously, it's in Tiger Stadium. I would expect when the line finishes, LSU would be 3 to 7 point favorite in that game. Gosh, you really safe to say how important is this game? I'm going to ask you in the first game of Lane Kiffin's tenure at LSU, and you look at the schedule, which I hope everybody's sitting down for this. It's really difficult, like everybody's in the conference is. But you look at the schedule, and then obviously everybody's looking at the September 19th game against Ole Miss. I think both Ole Miss and LSU both have very difficult opponents week one, both Ole Miss at LSU. I mean, playing Louisville and Nashville, and then Clemson for LSU and Tiger Stadium. What are you looking at that game, and kind of what are you anticipating?
Well, I'll tell you this. I know 2 things. It's going to be sweltering hot, and it's going to be a madhouse because this town is on fire and ready for a really good football team. And as is the case most places this time of year, LSU fans think they've got a really good football team. I don't know if Clemson does. They were not good last year. They might have gotten in based on their schedule 2 years ago in that playoff. They lost some really high draft picks, 2 really high draft picks on the defensive line, 1 at corner. Their quarterback's gone. They lost a couple of wide receivers. And they did not add a single top 100 transfer in the country because Dabo just doesn't do it. So you're telling me you got a team that was not very good last year that didn't add instant impact pieces from the transfer portal, that just went and did the thing they've been doing for 20 years and went and got some 4-star recruits that are freshmen. I just don't know if a first-time starter at quarterback in a roster that doesn't have a lot of transfer ads is going to be a lot better than last year, and they're coming into Tiger Stadium for a guy's first start. I ranked LSU's games in order of difficulty on my show on Tuesday, and I put Clemson at 7. It's a home game, and I don't know if they're going to be great. I think LSU's going to win that game. Now, I have sincere doubts about going to Oxford. I have sincere doubts about A&M with what they did to LSU the last 2 years in the second half, just absolutely toyed with Blake Baker in the second half of those games. Then you look at what LSU's got after the bye week, It's Alabama, it's Texas, it's at Tennessee. It's brutal at the beginning and at the end. Now, they got some winnable games in the middle. I don't know that Auburn's going to be great, and they're on the road there. They're at Kentucky. Mississippi State comes to Tiger Stadium. There's some winnable games in the middle of the schedule in October. But, yeah, the front end is brutal, and so is the back end. But that's just kind of life in the SEC. You can't really find an easy one.
9-3, don't make the playoff. What's it like in Tiger Stadium this offseason, or should I say Baton Rouge this offseason? Is Lane okay? And obviously, I think I've been very open on this podcast. I think Lane Kiffin is going to win big at LSU. I'm with you. The schedule's difficult. There are a lot of unanswered questions on the roster, but is 9-3 just okay? Get it figured out, Coach, and we'll see you next year.
I think it's there are three opinions that kind of matter. One is the boosters who cut the checks. How do they feel about it? I don't know. I don't cut any of those checks. No one asked, and I don't have the funds. So that's one set of circumstances. Then you got just Joe Fan, who is just watching the team. Then you got the administration. I would suggest that Joe Fan. It always depends on what it looks like. If Texas comes to the Tiger Stadium and beats you, by blocking a 38-yard field goal. Well, I mean, that's you played them head up, and they're maybe top 5 team in the country. You go lose real tight at Tennessee late in the season, or A&M beach. I mean, like it's not every 9-3 is not the same. If you get blasted by Ole Miss, blasted by Alabama and Texas in your home stadium 2 weeks in a row, well, that right. Changes the way things look. But I think Joe Fan would understand that 9-3 doesn't mean the end of the Lane Kiffin era in Baton Rouge. You just restock the shelves and go back and try it again. I think the boosters who cut $40 million worth of checks may have a different way of thinking about it with expectations. And I think the administration feels like they've got a really good football coach, and they're going to let him run his race. So everybody's got a different point of view, and we'll have to see how the dust settles beyond Thanksgiving. But I don't think there will be a lot of people just absolutely appalled if LSU goes 9-3 and doesn't make the playoff. That's really close to being where you want to be.
Hunt Palmer does a fantastic job on 104.5 ESPN Radio in Baton Rouge. Hunt, thank you very much. We'll see you very soon. Appreciate you jumping on with us today.
Absolutely, Brad. Have a great rest of your Sunday.
And we welcome you into the Talk of Champions. Justin Hokanson of AuburnSports.com, that's an affiliate of On3, joins us here to preview the Auburn Tigers. And Justin, fall camp, or let me rephrase, preseason camp. It's nothing about fall here in Mississippi. I know there's nothing about fall there in Auburn as well. Under wide open right now. Your early thoughts on this upcoming season.
Oh man, I don't know. It's going to be interesting with this Auburn team. I mean, in general, I don't think they have the talent that they did last year. So I mean, there's a lot of good players that left and went to the portal. I mean, you can say what you want. Hugh Freeze and that staff, they did bring in some talent. Overall talent wasn't really the issue. Doesn't mean they can't have a better season or win more games, though, because what we saw under the previous regime, mainly Hugh Freeze, was just inconsistency in how they prepared, inconsistency in how they played, making plays in the second half, making plays in the fourth quarter. Like at all the critical moments and the crucial times, they folded and they made losing plays. And that's I think that's how you go like 3-13 and games that are 10 points or less the last couple of years. They basically lost them all. So that's going to be, to me, the key with this team, among other things, is figuring out a way. They're going to be in some close games. They're going to be in some of these games. How do you figure out a way to win late? I don't know. We're a week into fall camp. I'm still looking at the offensive line is the biggest question mark on offense, and I'm still looking at cornerbacks as the biggest question on defense for me. The O-line is completely rebuilt. You bring in 2 guys from USF, and then the other 3 starters are likely transfer guys. I don't know what that group's going to look like yet. And they've got to be obviously really good. They're going to want to run the ball with Byron Brown and Jeremiah Cobb. Like, you've got some ability there, but what that group looks like and what those tackles look like on the edge, the ability to protect the edge, I don't know. I'm not sure yet. If they could do their job, I think with the offense and Byron Brown's knowledge of the offense and his ability, you bring in some receivers from USF. I think there's some ability there, but what that group does is a big question mark. And then defensively, there's a lot of trust in DJ Durkin. I think I just look at cornerback. They lost Kay and Lee went to the portal. Jay Crawford went to the portal. And so I look at corner. You've got it's just a little unknown. I think there's some athletic ability there. I think they're trying to figure out who's corner one, who's corner two. Like, can these guys hold up on an island? Andre Jordan from UCLA, Gavin Jenkins comes over from USF, Rayshawn Pleasant comes back. Now he's going to be asked to do a lot more. So that's probably where I'm looking at on defense is like, can cornerback get figured out? Because I feel like the other positions, they'll have the right players in the right position. So those are kind of the two things on either side when I think about this Auburn team. I mean, I think, look, like I mentioned, last year, every loss was one score. I mean, you go look at their schedule last year. Like, look at the games. It was like lost by a touchdown, lost by a touchdown, lost by a touchdown. I mean, they were right there. They didn't have the offense, and they didn't have the ability to win those games in the fourth quarter. So that'll be the big thing this year is like, do they close the gap on one of those? Are they close against Florida and they get over the hump, or can they pull off an upset against LSU at home or something like that? Those will be big signs, I think, when you're trying to figure out Alex Golesh, the program, what it's going to look like. Can you get over the hump in some of those close games?
Yeah, you just mentioned my next question, Alex Golesh. How's the transition been? And I don't know if he's polar opposite than Hugh Freeze, but what are some differences that you've seen between Golesh and Freeze?
Yeah, I would say polar opposite. It's just, if you're not here, if you weren't around Hugh Freeze, not just around practice, but like I live here, and I talk to people. I know things that went on, and I know how Hugh Freeze operated, and I see just early stages of Alex Golesh, and I talk to people that know him and how he operates, and I talk to people at Auburn about the interview process, and they just couldn't be more opposite when it comes to attention to detail, like living in the weeds of everything, the true process of it all. Like, Alex Golesh is in the middle of everything. He wants to know everything, not necessarily because he's micromanaging. He'll let guys make decisions, but he wants to know everything that's going on because he wants all of the information. He wants all the context. He thinks that helps him make his decisions. And it's just football for him. There's no hunting. There's no fishing. There's damn sure no golf. It's just football. And that wasn't the case with Hugh Freeze. And so it was one of my biggest issues with Hugh Freeze was early on. I just was hearing too many things about just how he was operating, not just like offense and practice and meeting and missing some quarterback meetings. And there was just an inconsistency about how Hugh Freeze operated. And you just could see that it was going to leak into the program and it was going to leak into how they performed. And it did. Alex Golesh is a different guy. What does that mean? What's the degree? Like, what does that mean in terms of wins? I don't know yet. I mean, this is year one. He hadn't even have a chance to really build a roster that looks like what he wants yet. I just know that the kind of guy he is and the attention to detail he is and sort of being all about the process, I think he's genuine in that. Like, I don't think he's pretending. I don't think he's a fraud when he's like, this is how we're going to – I don't think he lives it. And I really believe that. Didn't always think that with Hugh. So I think he's going to present and create an environment for winning at Auburn. It's just, can you get the talent? Can you get it right at quarterback? And can you go out there and win close games? Like, all of those other variables that you have to go do. But early on, it's hard to find anything that I could point out so far that I would be like, he should have said this different or he should have done this differently. They're recruiting well. I haven't heard any negative things from boosters. In fact, I hear like he's engaging with them, but he's not buddying them. He's like, this is how we're going to do it. I'm very confident in what I'm doing. So, so far, I don't know that he could have done anything all that different so far with the program and how he's dealing with people.
Is there officially a number of transfers that came from South Florida, and how many was it?
It was 12, 13. I can't remember the number.
Yeah.
Somewhere it was like I think it was 12 or 13. Could be 11, something like that. It was
fairly significant numbers.
And mostly on
players that had significant snaps, I should say.
Yeah, you're looking at. I mean, Byron Brown's going to start. Cole Skinner is probably going to start at guard. Cole Best is probably going to start at center. Keyshawn Singleton, and then at receiver you got Keyshawn Singleton, Chaz Nimrod, Jeremiah Coger, Christian Neptune, Corey Pettigrew. A lot of those guys will play. Nakai Davenport's a young running back who's not going to be one or two. but he's just a freshman. Jonathan Eccles at tight end comes over. He's in the mix there. And then you got a couple of guys on defense, Gavin Jenkins at corner, Fred Gaskin at safety. So I don't know what I'm up to, but some of those offensive guys are going to start. Yeah. I mean, you're looking at a lot of the receivers are going to play. And then of course, Byram, the 2-0 linemen are going to play as well. So offense is where you're going to probably see the most impact from those guys. And then I do think Gavin Jenkins is a pretty good player and he'll play a good bit at corner, and Fred Gaskin a little bit at safety, but Gavin Jenkins is probably more in line. Defense, they lost guys, but there's guys that stayed on defense. Xavier Atkins, Elijah Melendez, Jared Smith, like Eric Winters. There's some good players that stayed because DJ Durkin stayed. But yeah, most of the impact will be felt on offense with some of those USF transfers.
The one position that all of us kind of watching from afar with Hugh Freeze as head coach, just because of the history there with Ole Miss, was Hugh never really got the quarterback to get the job done. It felt like, you mentioned a little bit ago. I just want to briefly talk about these games last year. Oklahoma lost 24-17, at A&M 16-10, Georgia 20-10, Missouri 23-17. It just goes on. Vanderbilt 45-38, and then Alabama 27-20. Just right there, literally just right there. And I feel like if Auburn had a quarterback that they could have depended on, is Byron Brown that guy that they can depend on, in your opinion?
I think so. I mean, I think the big question mark with him, to me, is just transitioning into the SEC, because he was at South Florida for a number of years. So he's familiar with Alex Gold, Joel Gordon, the offense. Like there's familiarity there. He knows what he's doing. And you look at last year, I mean, you're only talking about 11, 12 quarterbacks ever to go 3,000 passing, 1,000 rushing in the same season. That's what he did last year. 3,000 plus, 1,000 plus. And so you're just really, to me, he knows the offense. He knows what the expectations are. What's it look like in the SEC? Can he run like that in the SEC? Can he throw like that in the SEC? Like it's going to be different. We know that from the American Conference. So like that's the question with him. He's in the number one thing I heard like from way back, even before he like officially, like early on when we knew Byron Brown was likely going to enter the portal and coming, and speaking with people that were on the staff that came over, were like, yeah, he's talented, but it's his leadership. Like wait till you see him as a leader, and then everything we've seen in practice, everything we hear from the coaches, but you can see, you can go out there and practice and watch his persona. He's got all that. He's got the variables. He's got the it factor. He's a smiling, confident guy. Like, so he's got everything you'd want in a quarterback. He's a load to deal with when it comes to running. It's just, the long throwing motion he has, as long as he knows how to work with it, fine. How does that work in the SEC? Can he constantly evade rush and find those running lanes and run the football? Can he handle the pounding if they want to run him 15 times? That kind of stuff, which I think he can. He's a big, strong kid. Like he's going to be a load to tackle. I think just passing the football, just maybe the speed of the game's a little bit more. I mean, I know people point to the Florida game, and they did go to the Swamp and win 100%. Low scoring game. I mean, it wasn't like USF went to the Swamp and scored 38, but they did win. So that's to me the question, is just transitioning into the league, into the SEC. What does he look like? And he might go out there and do exactly what he did last year. It might not even matter. He's just a stud, or it might look a little different. We'll see, but he's got everything else. He's got everything else you'd want, like a good fit in the system, knowing what to do and being a leader. He's got all that. Like of the quarterbacks in the league, it's hard to find one that has a better chance to like skyrocket up. If you ranked them, the top 10 quarterbacks, it's hard to find one that has a better chance to skyrocket up. Lenore Sellers, obviously he's got all this ability, but there's a lot of proven SEC quarterbacks. And then Byram is just this guy with the production and the talent that you're going, what is it going to look like in the league? Because if he brings it over and he just he does his thing and he's just that kind of player, then it's going to be a big deal.
Is this Jeremiah Cobb's opportunity as a senior to be the leader in the running back room? And if it's not him, who do you foresee getting a lot of the carries for the Tigers?
Yeah, it'll be Jeremiah. I mean, it'll be him. I think he was, he's about 1,000 yards last year. He only had 5 touchdowns, that's just Hugh Freeze. They couldn't score in the red zone at all. Big part of why they lost those games. But yeah, it'll be his show. He's bulked up. He's over 200 pounds. He's still got the kind of speed that he had. So it'll be his show. And then you'll have sort of a battle for running back 2 on who that is. But really when you factor in Jeremiah Cobb, let's say he gets 17 carries a game. You factor in Byron Brown's going to get carries, whether it's designed runs or scrambles. He's going to carry the ball. Gosh, I would think he ends up with 12 on average, 12 carries a game. He might have 21 game. He might have 8, but he's going to have some. So you're going to have about 30 carries, I think, between Byram and Jeremiah. So then it's just filling the gap of running back 2, whether that's a youngster from here in Auburn, Omar Mabson, or whether that's the Baylor transfer, Bryson Washington, who missed the spring but is kind of coming on a little bit. That's a guy with a bunch of ability and who's played a bunch of football. If he could come on, you could have a good 1-2 punch with Jeremiah Cobb and Bryson Washington. But either way, Cobb's going to be running back 1. He'll get most of the carries because he can kind of do a little bit of everything. And then, of course, Byram is kind of running back 2. I mean, he's going to be a huge part of the running game as well. But it's going to be Cobb's load to carry, and we'll see if he can top that 1,000-yard mark.
Chaz Nimrod, the transfer from Tennessee, along with Jeremiah Coger and Keyshawn Singleton. Is that 3 targets that Brown's going to have? And if not those 3, who are some others that you're looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, those 3 you nailed. Nimrod's a guy we've written about, but I think he could be the best one. He was at Tennessee, then he transferred to USF. He played about the first 6-7 games last year, then got hurt. You talk to the coaches and just overall athletic ability, the way he carries himself, understanding the offense, like doing everything right, he might be the best receiver. And so Keyshawn Singleton and Coger both led USF in touchdowns last year. Singleton led him in yards, but Nimrod could easily end up being the best receiver on the Auburn roster. So I think between those 3, and Coger's a big guy. And they're all pretty physical. None of those guys are small. Coger's a really big guy. And then I think you'd look at freshman Deshaun Spencer from Mobile, who flipped from Duke. He's really talented. He's going to be a part of the mix. Probably those 4, I would say, are going to be the bulk of trying to get the job done. There's some other guys, Christian Neptune, who came from USF, Corey Pettigrew. They'll rotate guys, but the 3 you mentioned, I would toss in Deshaun Spencer, and I'd say those 4 are going to do the heavy lifting. But Chaz Nimrod's the one I would watch that, like, if you go back and look at USF stats from last year, you'll be like, why is he's not even the top 2 in yards or whatever, but he could be the most consistent receiver they had. Of course, they scrimmaged their first fall scrimmage. Singleton had, I think, 2 touchdowns. Like, the guy, that guy's going to make plays, but Nimrod's a guy to watch out for.
The offensive line is a position that you talked about. You were looking at a couple of positions. What gives you cause for concern with that offensive line this year?
The tackles. Stanton Ramil, they get out of the portal from Michigan State, who's got some ability. They battled some good teams for him, but he was injured. So, like, he didn't even participate in spring. He's even now kind of they're being careful with working him back in. He practiced. He went through their whole first fall camp scrimmage, which is good. But missing the spring to injury and kind of making sure that they get him to game 1. It's just, you'd like a guy to be out there full speed, no limitations, learning that left tackle position in this offense. And then Joe Simmons, who came over from James Madison, is most likely the right tackle. I just don't exactly know what to expect from them yet. That's all. I mean, they might be good. They might step up to the plate and play well. I'm not sure yet. I haven't seen it yet. And the Ramel missing time and trying to ease him back in, it's not, I don't want to say concerning. When you hear a player coming off injury, they're like, we want to sort of make sure that we get him to game 1 and he's good to go. And there's a little bit of caution there. So the tackles is really, Cole Best comes over from USF at center. You got to feel like the center quarterback communication, that battery is going to be really good. Now we'll see how Cole Best and Cole Skinner right there in the middle translate into the SEC, but I think they'll be fine. Tackles where we'll see. Can you deal with the edges that you're going to see in the SEC? Now Brown can escape things. I mean, in terms of protecting, he's going to pick up the slack a little bit. If you let somebody go, he can make a run for it. But the tackles is where I'm not saying they're not going to be good, but I don't know exactly what you have there quite yet.
One of the best stories in college football that really nobody talks about, there was a special on the SEC Network, is about Alex McPherson, the kicker. Been through a lot, obviously, from a health standpoint, but a really good kicker. And So just a really good story there.
Yeah, he's a fantastic kicker. I mean, his journey is wild. I'm sure some people have. I'm sure some people. I was trying to pull his stats up real quick. I'm sure some people have maybe seen on the periphery, like a little bit of his story. They did a game. I think it was last fall that Game Day did a deal with him. But a guy that was really good his sophomore year. I mean, 13 of 13 in 2023. And then all this stuff, he had to kind of basically a gastrointestinal issue that like they could not figure out. I mean, he could not eat, he couldn't keep weight on, he couldn't maintain weight. And it's kind of scary how much the weight he lost. And they thought they had it fixed, and then it wasn't fixed. And he underwent surgeries and basically missed all of 2024, and then fought his way back after, losing tons of weight, looking like skin and bones, and then fights his way all the way back. And he goes 20 of 23 last year. And now he looks like, seeing him in the complex, he looks finally like he's gaining good weight, muscle, keeping it on. He looks pretty good now. And he's a guy that he's got range from 60. He's a really, really excellent kicker, but it's kind of wild through all of his stuff that he still only missed like 3 or 4 kicks in his entire career. So that's something that certainly they can lean on. And it's a really awesome story. I think he's an NFL kicker.
Looking at the defense, it feels like when I look at Auburn football, I think of Pat Dye running the football, Rudy Johnson, and defense. And in Auburn defensively, under DJ Durkin, have taken a big step forward. And I'm with you. I think keeping Durkin under obviously Alex Golesh, who I'm very bullish on, is a really good coaching staff. Personnel-wise, do you think Durkin likes this defense, and what do you think he likes about it going into the season?
Yeah, I think he likes it. I mean, the good thing is, all these guys he recruited, a lot of them from high school. It's kind of funny. It's like all the offense is almost just portal. The offense. You look across the starters in the offense, it'll just be Jeremiah Cobb. That'd be the only guy that's not a transfer. Defense is going to be different. Xavier Atkins is back. Melendez is back, and Sylvester Reed and Champ Anthony and Eric Winters and Rayshawn Pleasant and Jared Smith and Dallas Walker, like all of these dudes are coming back. So you start at linebacker. Xavier Atkins is a preseason All-American. Elijah Melendez was a super talented freshman last year that's going to start alongside of him. Those two are going to be really good. You're rebuilding the D-line a little bit. Malik Blockton went to LSU. You lost a couple guys there, but you still got some. Dallas Walker in the middle is a huge anchor. Jared Smith on the end could be fantastic. Deshaun Womack, him. He's got some ability. So defensive line, and I trust their defensive line coach, Vontrell King-Williams, is a good coach. He'll get production out of that group. A lot of guys coming back at safety, so that's why I just go to corner. I just think corner is a position where they replace some guys, and I just don't exactly know what you have there. Maybe they turn out to be super reliable and they're really good players, or maybe you're just kind of always rotating there and trying to find a true cornerback one. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, I think he's going to like what he's going to get out of there, because you've got linebackers that are going to call the defense and those guys, and that's Durkin coaches the linebackers, and he's got 2 really good ones. So you start there. He's got his D-line coach came back. That's the only assistant that came back with Vontrell anchoring the D-line. So I think he likes what he's got. And to me, it's the corners. If the corners if you figure that out and you feel like you got 3-4 good corners, I think it's going to be a really good, it's going to be a really good defense. They're top, since Durkin arrived, they're basically a top 25-ish unit in the country. And they're certainly stingy. They're the reason that a lot of these games were close, is because they hung in there and tried to allow the offense to. That Georgia game was 13-10 in the fourth quarter, and they gave up. And then they just were worn out, and they couldn't get off the field late in the fourth quarter. And Georgia scored that touchdown and go 20-10. But Mike, you go hold Georgia to 13, what else do you want? So stuff like that. So I think, and who knows about the defense? It could be encouraging to go out there and watch an offense potentially have the ability to score points, but just a little more belief that they will. It's probably hard the last few years to walk out there and go, what faith do I have? No offense, but I don't know what the faith I have in Jackson Arnold or Peyton Thorne. Those are awesome guys. They just weren't good fits with what Auburn was trying to do. And I would have to think it helps the defense to feel like there's a little bit more faith in that other side of the ball if you do make a mistake, just to keep their energy level up a little bit.
taking a look at the schedule and kind of finishing up here, you look at it, you open up with Baylor, Auburn does, and then I saw that it was released, I think today as we record, Southern Miss will be a night game, so that'll be a lot of fun, along with Florida and then Vanderbilt. Some opportunity there early with Tennessee on the road. What do you like about the schedule? And, what are you anticipating in the first game? I don't know what to expect out of Dave Aranda and Baylor. I really don't. I would love to see Auburn win that game. I know that's a big opportunity for Auburn, but the first couple of weeks, depending on what you get out of Florida and John Summerall, Vanderbilt's obviously down. I just learned that Vanderbilt still doesn't know who their starting quarterback is going to be. It's between Jared Curtis, the 5-star, and then whoever the other guy is. So some opportunity early there possibly for Auburn.
Yeah, the Baylor one's interesting. I mean, I don't know that they're, I don't remember what they finished last year, but I know they lost some talent. So it's like they're not better than they were last year. And Auburn went there and won. And I think Sawyer Robertson's is certainly a good quarterback. Lagway is a dude, but I don't know that Lagway is better than what you had with Sawyer Robertson necessarily. So I'm looking at this game in Atlanta. There's maybe 50,000 Auburn fans. You got to like Auburn's chances of winning that game. Baylor's not it's not like they've dramatically improved since last year. Auburn won that game by 14. They had a kickoff return. So, but yeah, that'll be an interesting one. Because at the same time, Auburn, new team, new coach, neutral site. You're not in your own home. I don't, do they come out with jitters? Do they come out, rolling, hitting on all cylinders? But I think the amount of fans that are going to be in that stadium from Auburn and Mercedes-Benz, that's going to be a big deal. Like the Florida game is the game. That's the game a lot of people point to for when it comes to Auburn's schedule, because October's insane. October is at Tennessee, bye week, at Georgia, LSU at home, at Ole Miss. Tennessee, Georgia, LSU, and Ole Miss on the road in October. 3 of those are on the road. Like, you could easily go 0 for October. I think LSU and Ole Miss, they'll have a chance. Like, they'll be in those games. They'll be competitive. Even at Tennessee, Georgia's that's tough. But winning them is a different story. But the Florida one is just like the most evenly matched. Florida and Auburn are in very similar places, right? Like, they've had talent. They didn't do anything with it. They have new coaches that I think are both good coaches. And so they're just in similar places. That Florida game is going to basically be a pick 'em. And it's the SEC game 1 for Auburn. It's at home. I don't want to say you have to. Like, Auburn could lose that game, and then maybe it clicks later on, and they reel off and they upset LSU or something, and they upset Ole Miss. Like, who knows? But the Florida game looks like one where if you're Auburn and you want to get to 8-4, you go almost. That's going to be one you better get, because if you don't, then it doesn't necessarily bode well for like October. What I'm talking about now, you're at 5 losses. So the Florida game is just, I think, a hugely pivotal game for Auburn, not just because they need it in terms of talent. Equally talented teams are sort of in similar places, but it's game 1 in the SEC. You get that. Now you've got energy and momentum. You come back the very next week at home against Vanderbilt. You got to be feeling optimistic, some momentum. Maybe you turn that into 2-0 in the league. And now you're hitting October 4-0. Mississippi State will be a dangerous game. Arkansas is obviously supposed to struggle, so you think you handle that at home. But the Florida one's, I think, the one you got to have. If you lose that one, then you're going to have to upset Tennessee, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, Bama. You're going to have to pull a pretty decent little upset to try to get to 8-4. So that'll be but all in all, it's not a terrible schedule. Like, as far as SEC schedules go, there are definitely more difficult ones. Like, some of the stuff Hugh Freeze had to face, I'll give him that. Like, we're brutal. This is a normal SEC schedule. It's not insane for Alex Golesh in year 1. Like, you could get to 8-4. You could get there with an upset. But 7-5 is 6-6 it can't happen. 7-5 is not the end of the world. It's fine for year 1. 8-4. If you're an Auburn fan, you go 8-4. I think you take that and you run, and you'd be excited about it.
No Texas, no Texas A&M, no Oklahoma, no Missouri, no Kentucky. So, yeah, there's some opportunity there. I agree with you. And to me, I looked at this schedule a good bit before I had you on, and everything I looked at told me that the Florida game is going – and I hate to use make or break. That's not what I mean. But I do think that's the difference in 9-3 and possibly 7-5, winning that game, because I think there's some opportunity there. Because there's one team we never even talked about, and before we get out of here today, Auburn had a chance against Alabama and fell by the wayside. Had Auburn won that game, Ole Miss would have went to the SEC championship game for the first time in program history. So, I mean, talk about Ole Miss fans yelling for Hugh Freeze. That was it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, nobody's really talking about Alabama. Where is things right now in the state? Because Kalen DeBoer, I'm not saying that he's got one foot out the door, but he's not getting any welcome packages from any of the fan base right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, unfortunately, Auburn's been so bad that they really haven't, it's like they're just worried about trying to get their own program back in a good spot. But there's just I don't know. There's just something's off with Kalen DeBoer in Alabama. Like the vibe from fans is just, and maybe it didn't matter who it was post Saban. Maybe it didn't matter. Like anybody after Nick Saban,
I agree with you. Yeah.
And Alabama fans were just gonna feel like, is it still the Nick Saban program? It's not. He's not Saban. I don't know who it could have been, but DeBoer's I think been more intriguing than others. It just seems like a disconnect between Kalen DeBoer and what their fans want and expect and think they're going to get. There's just something sort of missing. Like DeBoer's not Saban, and they're like just personality. They're just different. And Alabama fans have been so used to Saban for so long that you're not going to get another one of those guys. But DeBoer's very different, and so it just, hey, look, if he figures it out this year and they go whatever 10-2 and they're back in the playoff, whatever. But there's just it's almost like a ticking clock. It almost feels like from their fans, they almost feel like they know he's maybe not the guy. Not bad. They might be good, but there's just there's something there. Like they're thinking about who they're going to get after he leaves. It's a weird vibe. Not like they're going to fire him if they go 9-3, but it's almost just like, yeah, he's pretty good, but something's just not connecting with him, with the fans and him. It just doesn't quite seem right. It's like Harsin and Auburn. You're like, something's off here. It's just doesn't quite feel like it's the hire that it should have been.
With the exception of the 22 season, the Iron Bowl has been very competitive, one or two touchdowns, and Alabama has had the best of Auburn during that span. How important, and this is a very much a rhetorical question, I know it's important, but how much pressure is on Alex Golesh to kind of turn that Iron Bowl sway right now? Because right now it's absolutely in Alabama's favor.
Oh, I mean, huge. I mean, nobody's going to expect it this year. You go to two Georgia, two Bama. So barring Auburn being way better than we thought they'd be, or Alabama looking really bad, nobody's going to expect it this year, but they're going to expect it like next year. Like year two, they're going to be like, okay, beat one of them. I mean, it's just it's been bad. I mean, the last win for Auburn against Bama was 19, and the last one for Georgia was 17. So it's been a minute. It's been a minute since you've won either one of those. So yeah, you got to flip that. I mean, it was one of the thing with Malzahn, right? Like he would upset Bama, but he lost to Georgia, and he would lose to LSU, and you just can't do that stuff. Of course, now the LSU rivalry is not what it used to be since Auburn doesn't play them all the time. But yeah, you got to flip it at some point, and they've been super close. I mean, they had Georgia on the ropes twice at home. The last two times Georgia's come here, Auburn's had an opportunity. Same thing with Bama. They've been right there, and so you got to flip that next year. I mean, I know it's year two, it might be unfair, but they're just it's part of it. I mean, Golesh is just going to have to deal with a little bit. He's just going to have some impatient fans because of what they went through with Harsin and Freeze. They just are like, they're going to be realistic with him, but they're just ready to get over the hump. And so like, they're not going to give Golesh like, hey man, 3 years, let's check in after 3 years, see where we're at. Like it's not going to fly. And you can't do that in this age anyway, with like NIL and the portal. Like you can't have Auburn. This can't not work with Golesh. Like they've had 2 bad coaches. This can't also be 2.5 years down the road and you fire him, or 3 years down the road, because you're going to have fans and donors some serious fatigue if that happens. You're going to have people go, all right, I'm out. 3 coaches, you want more money from me, I'm out. Like I can't do it anymore. So it's got to work, and there's going to be some pressure probably on him next year to win one of those 2 games.
October the 24th is LSU coming to Auburn and Jordan Hare. Though the week after that, October 31st on Halloween at Ole Miss. So I'd love to get your thoughts. Final question here for you, Justin. What was everybody's thought process whenever Ole Miss was making their run and Lane Kiffin was flirting with LSU, would eventually go, and then Ole Miss is hanging out there without a coach for a minute, and they're trying to get ready for the playoff prior to the Egg Bowl, and it just – or after the Egg Bowl, it was just craziness. Now Auburn's right in the middle of it. They've got LSU and Lane Kiffin, and the next week they've got Ole Miss and Pete Golding. What was everybody's thoughts down at Auburn while this was going on?
Not a lot of love for Lane, obviously, just because at the time he was constantly poking. He would poke at Hugh Freeze all the time publicly and all that. And so people would just defend Freeze or just defend the program. And so, not a lot of love for Lane at all. And so that which, I don't know, outside of the team Lane is coaching, who does have love for Lane? Like, is there anybody other than the team he's coaching that's like, I like Lane Kiffin? No, everybody thinks what they think about him. So that'll be a big one at home. I mean, assuming that's why Auburn needs to get by Florida, because they could go, Tennessee and Georgia, and you need some kind of momentum going into LSU Ole Miss, because I really do think they can be in both those games. And it'd be a shame if you had already lost to Florida, Tennessee, Georgia. It's just 3 losses, but you'd only have the Vanderbilt win. There'd be a lot of pressure. I think if they were 2-2 in the league going into LSU, there'd be, that's a much better place to be. I think going into those 2 games, because LSU at home, Ole Miss on the road, I think they'll have a chance in those games. It's just making enough plays. But yeah, they'll be fired up for Lane. They'll be fired up for LSU, and then Ole Miss will be interesting. I don't think Auburn fans have any real feelings on Pete Golding. I think a lot of how they felt about Ole Miss would have been how they felt about Lane, and so Lane's gone, and so I don't think there's I haven't seen Golish and Golding necessarily button heads on the recruiting trail yet. So I don't, there's nothing really there in terms of just a normal wanting to beat your conference rival. I think there's a lot more, obviously, animosity and some stuff built up just around Lane probably. And that was an interesting thing because, Summerall is a guy that was being hit around about, could he go to Ole Miss? Mm-hmm. And so there's definitely a lot of attention being paid to what Ole Miss was going to do, and did Summerall want to end up at Ole Miss and Florida and Auburn and all that stuff? It kind of all is weird how it all kind of intertwined. But, yeah, 2 big games I think Auburn will have a chance in. They'll be a lot more fired up for that LSU game at home, I would think. If you lose that, if Auburn's sitting there, if they don't beat Florida and you lose to Tennessee, Georgia, sorry about that. You lose to Tennessee, Georgia, LSU, a lot of pressure on Ole Miss. Yeah. If you already have four conference losses and you're trying to go into Oxford, a lot of pressure on that one.
Everybody is just absolutely barreling up for the start of college football season, September the 5th. It's Baylor and Auburn kicking off in Atlanta, and then I'll be tuned in to that Auburn and Florida game. I think that's going to make or break maybe either one of their schedules. Justin Hockenson from auburnsports.com, an affiliate of On3, kind enough to give us a few minutes today. Justin, thanks very much. We'll see you in Oxford in a couple of months, and appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
homes and businesses from the whims of nature. You need more than just quality materials. You require Riverland Roofing. Licensed, insured, and certified, Riverland Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs and budget. To learn more about what Riverland Roofing can do for you and the community, call them at 662-644-4297 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
Hey, Rebels, your truck is here. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford presents the all-new Ram Rebel. It's Ram, the Rebel way. Send an unmistakable signal. Rebel 24/7. Ram Rebel from your friend in the car business. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford.
Come by, let's be friends.
Tell my kids, You do your part, I'll do mine. That's teamwork. It's the same thing I tell my clients. It's their job to get well. It's my job to get them the most money possible to do just that. I want you to get back to enjoying the life we all love here in North Mississippi. If you're hurt in a traffic accident, an 18-wheeler wreck, or have insurance trouble, call 601-720-3541. That's my cell. If you call, I'll answer.
Make your first call to the Hearn Law Firm.
One team, one mission. Introducing one plan that changes the rules. The One Plan. Fiber and wireless for $99 a month. One plan, one price, zero compromises. Guaranteed. The One Plan for everyone. Only from C-Spire. Customer inspired.
Life is made up of moments. We care about those moments as much as you do. We are Modern Woodmen, a fraternal financial services organization. Member-owned, not stockholder-run. Since 1883, we've supported families, strengthened communities, and helped people reach their financial goals. From protection to saving to retirement planning, let us help you plan for those special moments in your life. We are Modern Woodmen of America.
Champions in our What We're Hearing segment with none other than Chuck Brownsville of the Ole Miss Spirit. He loves to pop up on the Ole Miss Spirit. You can get that QR code right above my head and join the Ole Miss Spirit today and get those hearing posts. But a lot of hearing going on right now because Chuck, practice is very, very limited to the media.
Yeah, it is. And, that's coach's choice. And I abide by it. I don't particularly agree with it, but that's okay. It's Pete Golden's program, and he can dictate whatever he wants that he thinks is going to be best for his team. And I respect that.
Right now, I think a lot of conversation is about that offensive line, not necessarily about the both guard positions in the center, but the left tackle and the right tackle. And maybe not as much about the left tackle with Therese Davis kind of locking it down, but that right tackle spot's a lot of conversation piece right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have to – your team is only as good as the weakest link. And right now, and I don't want to call them a weak link, but I think that's the least effective position on the offense right now that's a word I'm getting. And, it's up in the air. But I hear now that Tommy Kinsler is starting to make a move and doing real well out there, or at least doing better.
Kinsler, obviously the transfer from none other than Miami.
Yeah.
There's some other, usual suspects. Wayne Goy has been talked about, and then Carius Kern, who we've talked about a lot here on the Talk of Champions. Mm-hmm. But you think right now it's Tommy Kinsler maybe have a little bit of an edge?
Yeah, I think so. But I've heard that Carius has done flashed pretty good, and Connor Howes has also flashed out there, I've heard. So we'll see. But I think if I were a betting man, I'd say across the board it's Therese Davis, Delano Townsend, Bryson Sanders, Patrick Kudus, and Tommy Kinsler. Big athletic line, and I think they'll be fine.
The last time we had you on the show, it was almost as if Pete was listening, because I asked you about, was there an opportunity that if it just flat didn't work out, could Connor Howes come in, play right guard, and bump Patrick Kudus to right tackle? And the next media availability we have with Pete Golding, he essentially said that it is a very versatile offensive line. They can play multiple positions. So I think that absolutely was a positive.
Yeah, but, let's not forget Troy Everett. He came in here from Oklahoma. And right now, if something were to happen to Bryson Sanders or Patrick Kudus or Delano Townsend, I'm not sure if he wouldn't be next up.
Yeah.
He's 6'5", 310. And 6'3", 315. I got him mixed up with somebody else. But I think he might be the next guy up at either one of those three positions. And I don't know that for a fact, but that's where I'm leaning.
We had Harry Harrison on our show. You had him on your show, the Robo-Yo Hotline. You can catch it on Monday nights all across the South. You can also get the replay right here on the Talk of Champions. And he said that Deuce Knight kind of won the scrimmage that he saw this past weekend. I think that's good news, not only about the future, but I don't know that we'll have any packages to be able to see this year, but I think that's good news for the future that Deuce Knight is acclimated well so far.
Absolutely. One of the bright spots of camp, I understand, and I'll repeat what I said on Rebel Yell Hotline, Brad. Um, I talked to Hugh Freeze after he got fired, and he told me that if he had started out day one with Deuce Knight at quarterback, that he believes he still would have had his job at Auburn. He thinks that kid is that talented. He just wasn't quite ready at the first of last year. But he said, man, when the light comes on with that kid, he's just dynamic. Plenty of arm, a lot of speed, big kid, strong, loves the game of football, smart, picks things up quickly. So, I mean, as far as the future's concerned at quarterback, well, it looks like we're stacked up there pretty good.
Kind of reflecting back on the somewhat of a scrimmage over the weekend, everybody I talked to said that they felt like that it was trying to figure out not only maybe some positions on offense and defense that they're trying to solidify to start, but that second level, who's ready to take that step forward to be the backup that they need at that position. Is that a pretty fair assumption to what or assessment that you've heard too?
Yeah, absolutely. That a lot of the starters, so quote starters, were held out of the scrimmage or held out a lot of the scrimmage to try to see who they can trust. It's all about trust when you get to that second level. I mean, it's trust about the starters too, but they've earned the trust already. But it's the guys trying to earn the trust. You take guys like at tight end, the pre-scoring kid. Is he earning his trust to play some? And I understand he is. Because you've got Caleb Odom and you've got Luke
Luke
Haas
Haas, yeah.
that are ready to go. They're ready to rumble. They are. But two tight ends is not enough. Who's the third guy? Out wide, you got three guys that are bona fide and they trust, but who's the fourth guy? Is it Samari Reed? Is it Daryl Gill? I mean, Cameron Miller, Isaiah Hartrip made a one-handed catch the other day that the school put out and showed in the scrimmage. And you're saying, well, they trust him to return kicks. So I wonder if they're starting to return. Trust Isaiah playing out wide. So I think there are a lot of situations. Running back is Lindsey a guy that they can trust? Because they trust Keywan and Makai Frazier, the transfer from Michigan State. So you need a third back. Who is it? Shakai Mills-Knight. Do they trust him? I heard that he had a pretty good day the other day in a scrimmage. So it's across the board, Brad. Who can they trust? That's the only thing that they're looking at right now. And to narrow it down to just one word, it sounds silly, but it's all about trust.
Yeah. Yesterday, we saw another ruling from the courts, and it feels like, Chuck, the college football that we grew up and loved is no more. It's a new day, whether it be from NIL to court rulings to playing additional years. And when I saw a post from On3 that said former Seahawks wide receiver has entered the college transfer portal, I knew something was wrong. There are obviously some names that are very important to Ole Miss. Whitehead Williams, the defensive player. Secondly, you've got Daquan Wright, and then
Xavier Harris.
Xavier Harris. Yeah, those are the three that were mentioned in the lawsuit. Do you have any latest intel on what the future holds for those three?
Well, I got a little intel last night that it's not looking very positive that they're going to come back. They say that Whitehead Williams doesn't want to come back to college if he can help it. Daquan Wright, I understand, is still in a pro camp. And then Xavier Harris is got cut by the Saints. They say he's way overweight and way out of shape. And even if he came back, it'd be months before he got into playing shape. So I'm not very encouraged by it. Again, this is another thing that we have to learn to trust Pete Golden. If he wants them back, great. bring them on back here. But there are chemistry issues and morale issues you have to deal with. These kids that have sweated through spring and sweated through um, half of August practice in 100-degree heat. How would they accept these guys if they just moved them right in here and took their position, carte blanche without having to earn it? So there are more factors than just the talent side of it. And I'll be surprised if they take any of those guys back.
From what you've gathered, this would cost someone maybe a roster spot. How would it kind of work if a Daquan Wright came back or a Wyatt Williams did come back? How would it even work from what you've seen?
Well, I mean, scholarships aren't any big deal anymore with NIL. They're full of scholarship. They can't sign anybody else to scholarships, I've been told. But with NIL, you can give them just enough money to, pay for their schooling and whatever. So I don't think that would be an issue. If he wants them, one of them or two of them or all three of them or whatever, money's not going to be a problem, and neither is getting them on the team.
Defensively, Pete Golding told Super Talk Mississippi that he's really impressed with linebacker Tajay Butler. I've said all along that everyone that I've spoke to said that he is, quote, a tackling machine. Past him, who are you kind of looking at from depth? Obviously, Keaton Thomas and Luke Farrelly are the green dots in the linebacker room, with Butler kind of adding some insight there. The last time we talked about Mitchell, Hobson. Are there any other names at linebacker that have shined during fall or preseason camp?
I think you've got it narrowed down pretty well to those five. I think if there is an outlier there, it would be Raymond Collins, the senior JUCO guy from 2 years ago. Big kid, run stopper. I think he struggles in coverage, so it might be, situational type guy. But I think Thomas, Farrelly, Tajay Butler, Hobson, and Mitchell are the top five, and I don't think it's moved much.
Defensive line may be one of the strongest positions on the team. We talk a lot about Eccles and Franklin and Jam Brown, but have you heard about Purchase, Maldonado, any of those guys, the newcomers, about how they've acclimated to Randall Joyner, the defensive line coach, and then Pete Golding, the DC, and Brian Brown? What are your thoughts on the second level of that defensive line room?
Pretty much like the linebackers, I think we're in pretty good hands. I've heard some good things about Blake Purchase, Jordan Renaud from the transfer from Alabama. They're saying he can go inside, kind of like Cam Franklin, or stay outside. He's going to be a strong side end behind Franklin and probably behind Purchase. Then you got, of course, he's certainly not second line, but you didn't mention Centarian Perkins. He'll be a rush end, and Maldonado and Landon Barnes, the true freshman that's turned everybody's heads. I think they've got it pretty stacked up in there, Brad. And I haven't seen any of them, but I've gotten good word on all those guys I just mentioned.
Yeah, I was headed to talk about Suntaryn Perkins here in just a moment, because he and Landon Barnes are getting a lot of the conversation pieces from the national media, just because Barnes, I think when they showed the video, the university is very particular about the videos they release. And that specific video, when he beat Emmanuel Faulkner around the end, kind of perked everybody's ears up, because he looks like a machine, he being Landon Barnes.
Well, his arms look like jackhammers. I mean, My goodness, for a true freshman, are you kidding me? I mean, if you can't get excited about that kid's physique and his potential, you don't have a pulse, or you're not from the South because you don't care about football. He's going to be dynamite. I've heard all kinds of comparisons of him with Tony Bennett and guys like that went on to be all pro guys. So we'll see, but he's certainly off to a great start. And if you can't get excited about him, you can't get excited about any freshman.
You talk about on paper, and to me, the defensive back room is one to where Ole Miss is absolutely loaded, but in many stretches, it may be loaded on paper. They're going to have to see that obviously on the field. We saw against Miami in the Fiesta Bowl where Ole Miss just kind of ran out of gas, specifically at linebacker and defensive back. This defensive back room, who would right now, just by what you've talked to and just your gut, would you say the starters would be? Because I'm having a hard time putting a starting lineup together in the defensive backfield.
I think the three senior safety transfers are going to handle the three safety spots. That's Sharif Denson from Florida and Jonel Aguero from Georgia and Edwin Joseph, who I'm hearing is having a dynamite camp from Florida State, would be your safeties. And either Jay Crawford or Jalen Braxton at one corner, and I think Antonio Kite at the other corner. I think that's about as solid as it gets. And and I think some of the backups are pretty good. LaDarian Clardy, Nick Cull is a fifth-year guy, and I don't want to see Nick out there 40 plays, but I certainly don't mind seeing him out there to spell somebody, for 10 or 12 plays a game. And I think Cedric Beavers has done a good job as a backup cornerback. So I think they've got some options back there. But the top five guys to me are Denson, Aguero, Joseph at the safety slots, Jay Crawford or Jalen Braxton at one corner, and Antonio Kite at the other corner.
One thing I wanted to ask you about. Well, first of all, let me get to this, and we'll get to what I was going to ask you about. From an injury standpoint, obviously it is tight as Fort Knox out there. But from everything that you've gathered, not necessarily about any new injuries, have you heard if Caleb Cunningham has been coming along? I know he had the hamstring, and I know that he caught a touchdown from Deuce Knight in one of the scrimmages. Is there any addition to any injury that you know of?
No, I think he's on the comeback trail, but I think they're taking it really slow. He obviously has chronic hamstring issues like Jordan Watkins had his career here. And I think when you get somebody with chronic hamstring issues, if that is the case, you really have to pamper them because those things can just tweak from nowhere. I mean, you have to stretch them extra. You have to, baby them in the routes they run during the week. And it's not ideal, but the guy's talented enough that, he's worth that effort. And I hear he's on the comeback trail, and that's all we've got right now.
And one person I wanted to ask you about as we see some highlights from what we've been able to gather from practice. What is the latest on Jaheim Otis that you've heard? Is he coming along pretty well? We heard a very direct conversation that Pete had with Jaheim Otis during spring practice, and he talked a little bit about it in preseason camp. Do you know about anything that you're hearing out of Otis out of camp?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of the rotation at defensive tackle, and he's such a big kid. He's going to plug up three holes, same thing with Burrow. I think they're fine. Obviously Will Eccles is the star of that defensive tackle room, but I think Otis is doing fine. Here's the deal with Otis. It's his last shot, and I've seen this 1,000 times in my 50-year career covering college athletics, college football. When they get to their last shot, they realize it, and they put everything into it because they want to try to make a living on the next level. And they know they hadn't done enough yet to earn that. So they get a sense of urgency that they may not have had their whole career. And I've seen it, like I said, 1,000 times. And I think that's what you're going to see with Otis. This is his last shot. And I think you're going to see him put it all on the line. And I'll be shocked if that's not what we see.
By the way, Andrew Maddox, I heard, has turned a couple of heads at defensive line. So he comes from a very, very athletic family. His dad, Anthony Maddox, played at Delta State, was a All-American. So excited to see what he can do. Before we get out of here today, I heard a conversation with former Ole Miss head coach Houston Nutt, and he was talking about taking over. And I want to ask you about this. Taking over the '98 Arkansas team when he came back in his first year there. And he talked about a togetherness, and all those guys had been on the roster for 3 or 4 years, just couldn't put it together. Then he was asked about Coach, what would you do with a roster like today? And he says, it's completely different. And I'll throw it kind of to you, growing up, watching Ole Miss, you followed Ole Miss through a lot of years. And I remember picking it up through Brewer, through Tuberville. And you start looking back at those years, Chuck, when you would come in as a freshman and you would stay all the way as a senior and it would mean so much to you. What does a coach now, and how can they deal with bringing these transfers in, which they're mercenaries, one and done? I think Ole Miss is doing a better job of turning the page with Pete Golding, going after high school recruits. But how challenging is that locker room now, because it's just not the way it used to be?
I think that's overblown a little bit, Brad. I think these kids want to come in here and prove something. Kiffin used to talk about, building the chemistry so quickly, and we gotta get this team together real quickly because we got a lot of new faces. But he never seemed to have any problem with it.
Yeah.
It all seemed to gel, and I think it's a willingness of these athletes. If you do your homework and you bring in the right kids like Keaton Thomas and Luke Ferrelli, Sharif Denson, Jay Crawford, they want to do well and they want to blend in with the team. And so I think that may be a little overblown, and particularly with a head coach like Pete Golding that's so personal and such a player's coach. And that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. There may be situations where that it's blown up a locker room, but it doesn't seem to have blown up ours. I mean, we've won a lot of games since this transfer portal came around, and really, I can only think of one or two instances where team chemistry was an issue. What year was it? Maybe Dart's junior year, where they started at the end. They lost 3 or 4 games in a row.
22.
22 when Kiffin was.
Well, that's when Kiffin was flirting with Auburn.
When he was flirting with Auburn, what year? The years run together with me now. But when he was flirting with Auburn, I think he let go of the rope a little bit. The team chemistry got off kilter, and they lost some games at the end. But other than that, it's been pretty smooth sailing. So I don't think we should make too big a deal out of it. At least at Ole Miss, we won a lot of games in the last 3 or 4 years. I like how it's going myself.
That's a really good point, and that's why I'd like to have you on. Great insight. He's Chuck Rounds of the Ole Miss Spirit. You can join us today using that QR code right above my head and join us at the Ole Miss Spirit. That's onspirit.com, an affiliate of On3. Chuck, thanks very much for joining us, and I appreciate you jumping on.
All right.
Homes and businesses from the whims of nature, you need more than just quality materials. You require Riverland Roofing. Licensed, insured, and certified, Riverland Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs and budget. To learn more about what Riverland Roofing can do for you and the community, call them at 662-644-4297 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
Hey, Rebels, your truck is here. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford presents the all-new Ram Rebel. It's Ram, the Rebel way. Send an unmistakable signal. Rebel 24/7. Ram Rebel from your friend in the car business. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford.
Come by, let's be friends.
Tell my kids, you do your part, I'll do mine. That's teamwork. It's the same thing I tell my clients. It's their job to get well. It's my job to get them the most money possible to do just that. I want you to get back to enjoying the life we all love here in North Mississippi. If you're hurt in a traffic accident, an 18-wheeler wreck, or have insurance trouble, call 601-720-3541. That's my cell. If you call, I'll answer.
Make your first call to the Hearn Law Firm.
One team, one mission, introducing one plan that changes the rules. The One Plan. fiber and wireless for $99 a month. One plan, one price, zero compromises, guaranteed. The one plan for everyone. Only from C Spire. Customer inspired.
Life is made up of moments. We care about those moments as much as you do. We are Modern Woodmen, a fraternal financial services organization. Member-owned, not stockholder-run. Since 1883, we've supported families, strengthened communities, and helped people reach their financial goals. From protection to saving to retirement planning, let us help you plan for those special moments in your life. We are Modern Woodmen of America.
And welcome into today's Vanderbilt preview, my good friend, George Plaster, 94.9, The Fan in Nashville, joins me. One of my favorite cities. George and I talk a lot, and we'll talk a little Vanderbilt. But, George, tell me a little bit about what's going on now at a 94.9 The Fan in Nashville.
You know, Brad, first of all, you've been the good friend. You've come on my show so many times and bailed me out when I've needed it. So it's the least I can do. I'm on every day there from 3 to 5 p.m. We're on all the social media channels, none of which I understand other than Twitter and Facebook. But, you know, we do a good show. Kelly Holcomb, the former NFL quarterback and former MTSU quarterback, is my co-host. And we rag on each other constantly.
The former voice of the Vanderbilt Commodores. George, what year was that when you were the voice of the Commodores?
I was 95 to 98, and before that, I was a color announcer. I was in my 20s, and that was back in the 80s, and that simply is C.M. Newton. Man,
C.M. Newton, obviously. Yeah, the former incredible coach at Kentucky, incredible director of athletics. So definitely some very interesting people that have crossed paths with you, George, in your years there in Vanderbilt. By the way, we share the love of the Nashville Predators, and I can't say that it's going to be a great year, George, but I'm still going to be for the Predators.
Well, you know what? I'm a day one season ticket holder, Brad. And I was and I was heavily involved in the rally to keep the team from moving to Hamilton, Ontario. And someday I'm probably going to write a book about what the summer of 07 was like, because it was a loony bin.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And you and I talk whenever I excuse me, I brought my son to a game this past year, and it was so much fun, and I just absolutely love it. I want to talk briefly about the Vanderbilt Commodores. Last year, 10-3, and the big question, George, I'm sure you get it on your show every single day, the quarterback position, what's it look like?
Well, hold on here just a second. Did I lose you?
I got you.
We tell people.
No, we got you.
So I'm trying to drive a
Have at it. There's a rental car involved in this conversation.
There is, and it's not the most professional thing going, but what the heck? Until you hear otherwise, it's going to be Jared Curtis. I mean, they've paid him a lot of money. This was a 5-star kid that Georgia thought they had, and he flipped on Georgia, and I don't pretend to know what the flip was all about, but he did. And, he had a great high school career here. I got to see him a couple of times live against the high school that I went to, Battleground Academy. And, he's got all the tools. I mean, there's no doubt about that part of it. But even better than I do, the landmines of a freshman, from day one. And, that's the rub here is this kid, capable of that kind of stuff? Because let's face it, a bunch of their resurgence is due to Diego Pavia's greatness. Now, whether you're a fan of Diego Pavia and some of the off-field antics, the on-field was incredible. I mean, he came in runner-up in the Heisman Trophy, and he deserved it. I mean, he was incredible, and he got them out of so many jams, 3rd and 14s and convert on 4th and 3. The kid was incredible.
If it is Jared Curtis and everything that I've talked to and everybody I've talked to is basically Clark Lee is just pushing this along, and they very well could play two quarterbacks. I think Blaze Berlowitz is the other one, George. And the good news, Cedric Alexander returns in that backfield. Is there anybody else that's going to push him for some carries? Because he's really good.
I don't pretend to know that part of their depth. I will tell you this, Brad. One of the things that has gone on, they've been able to retain a lot of the people, Junior Sherrill being one of them, a really good wide receiver.
Yeah.
They've got a level of depth that they never had, for instance, when I was doing their games. Back then it was, the first 22 are not bad. They're respectable, but then all hell had to go past that. And I think that's one of the things that when Clark got here as a former player, he knew some of the landmines and realized that depth was going to have to be something that they worked on and made better. The other thing I think has gone on that really has not gotten a lot of attention, I think when they've dipped into the transfer portal, like everybody else, I think they've hit on a way higher percentage in the last 18 months than most schools. It appears to me that virtually everybody that they have gotten out of the portal, has contributed significantly.
And one of those is the tight end Cole Spence at NC State. I'm excited to see what he can do. Another receiver, Ja'Cory Thomas, junior receiver. In your opinion, how has Clark Lee done on that offensive line? I know you got Cade McCollum, Clinton Azubuike, Bo Johnson Jr., Brock Taylor coming back as a kicker. He'll be a junior. Offensively, how has Clark been over the last couple of years? Obviously, Diego Pavia with 10-3 record last year. But, real quick, I had a chance, and I've told you this, and I'll tell others, when Clark Lee was selling a vision 3-4 years ago, it was the same vision that other Vanderbilt coaches were selling. And really, James Franklin is the only coach in modern history that has proven that you can win at Vanderbilt. And it was short-lived, but it was, a little while there while he was at Vanderbilt. Clark Lee has proven, and we heard him at Media Day 2-3 years ago, he believes in this system. And I was like, yeah, I sound the same thing I've always heard. But Clark personally, his family. What has allowed him to be successful versus everybody else at Vanderbilt over the last 30, 40 years?
First of all, I'm guessing on one piece of it that he knew the landscape walking in better than most of the other coaches. I think a lot of the other coaches had been blindsided by stadium facilities, lack of this, lack of that. Clark walks in, and all of a sudden, about the same time that he rolls in, comes Chancellor Deermeyer, who takes one look at their facilities and says, oh my God, I don't have any choice but to make this better. And so the combination of the two, to me, has been a big-time winning formula. There's a player that I know pretty well, and he and I went to lunch earlier this summer. And I just asked this player, I said, okay, how did you all get to this level? I said, because as somebody who's been around this for a long, long time, I might have been the last person to admit a year ago, oh my God, they really are this good. And this player said to me that when Clark got there, that he was dealing with a lot of the residual problems of losing. Players in meetings who didn't give a damn, players with hoodies on. And, Clark just basically threw them out. and said, I'm not putting up with this. When we meet, you're going to act like, this is important. And if you don't act like it's important, see you later.
Clark Lee is an interesting story in the Southeastern Conference. A former defensive player, just a hard-nosed guy, very buttoned up, military-ish when you hear him talk. Defensively, I'd like to ask, has this defense improved? Would the word dramatically be pretty prone to be used here during Clark's tenure?
I think they were just good enough a year ago to allow Diego Pavia's magic to be meaningful. They were, they felt like they were on the ropes a lot, but about the time you'd feel like, okay, this thing's falling apart, then Pavia would put together a 15, 18 play drive, get them the rest they needed. I'm going to go back on something you asked about that I really didn't answer, and it was the offensive line.
Yeah.
I can remember some years looking around going, oh my God, they are so small. This isn't going to work. And then a year ago, you looked at their offensive line and you're like, oh my God, they got road graders here. And that to me was one of the unsung deals, was that their offensive line had reached a point where they could stack up with other people. And I think that's a big piece of the equation a year ago.
You and I have talked about Candace Story-Lee, and in full transparency, in her early tenure at Vanderbilt, I was scratching my head. I mean, facilities were not in a great spot. They changed the logo. But then years later, I've had a chance to shake her hand, and I did so in the tunnel whenever I was able to see her whenever Vanderbilt played Ole Miss, and I congratulated her because I think there were some hires in the early part of her tenure that I didn't quite understand, but she stuck with Clark Lee. Barton Simmons came along, part of that football program. We've seen Vanderbilt baseball kind of be up and down, but I mean, Tim Corbin's really good, a couple of national championships. And, men's and women's basketball, say what you want. The men's program is doing much better. I think she's done a pretty good job. And I want to elaborate on that with you, George, about the facilities. Vanderbilt Stadium at Dudley Field completely revamped over the last 10, 15 years. And I think that's a big, big feather in the hat of really Dr. Diermeyer, but also Candace Lee and Clark Lee's vision.
Brad, I got to be honest with you. I never thought that you could turn Vanderbilt Stadium into anything remotely like a positive. I just never saw that. And, as the construction went along, and I kept seeing things and I'd be like, oh my God, this looks really nice. Then the thing opens and, there's a lot of, wow, this is really first class stuff. And I'll tell you, Brad, there was a moment a year ago, they were pummeling Kentucky here. And they're in a timeout at the end of the third quarter. And their marketing group was playing the song Jump from Animal House.
Yeah.
And the place was rocking. And I opened up the window and I was like, my God, where was this when I did their games? It actually had become a really fun deal. And whether she ever does anything else, there are two moves to me that are the key. The first one is this stadium, which used to be a complete eyesore. I mean, it was so bad that coaches tried hard not to bring kids in on certain weekends where the visiting team would have more fans. The second one was getting Jerry Stackhouse the hell out of Dodge. He was a disaster. And getting Mark Byington in here. Byington is another in a series of SEC coaches, just like the one you all got down there, Chris Beard, who know their stuff. The SEC in basketball has become a conference of really good coaches, And Vandy's got one that I think is an underrated near the top. And, you know, first 2 years he's been there, they've been to the NCAA tournament. To me, those are moves that she's got to get credit for. And even the people that were her worst critics when she got the job have had to quiet down and say, you know what, job well done.
And you and I have talked about this, but Dr. Deermeyer obviously has been a huge component of the facilities upgrade, and it's really neat to see what they've done with Hawkins Field, obviously what they've done with the basketball arena there. But you see the picture here. Who would have ever thought that Vanderbilt Stadium would be an absolute difficult place to play? You know, growing up in the 80s, the 90s, and all of those difficult roads. What do you believe led to this resurgence? Is there one specific thing? Is there a couple things? Is there a couple different people? Because this is not the Vanderbilt we grew up on.
No, and look, I think as much as I don't like NIL and as much as I think that we have completely lost our way in college athletics, it probably has helped them. I don't pretend to know where he's getting the money, but I know Vandy's got some alums, unlike me, you know, didn't end up hitting it rich, but apparently there are a few that have, and my guess is that Clark has been able to tap into a few of them. The high school that he went to is a very affluent high school in Nashville. I don't doubt that he's tapped into some of them. And, you know, I don't pretend to know where all the money's coming from, and I'm not sure I want to know, but I think that's what's going on.
George, before we let you out of here today, I want to talk about the schedule just for a moment. It's difficult, but they kind of all are. If you look at it, Vanderbilt's got some opportunity the first 4 weeks of the season. Austin Peay, Delaware, NC State, and then Auburn on the road. 3 home games, so an opportunity to start 4-0.
Yeah, it is. The NC State one feels like sort of the flip game, swing game. Ole Miss used to always be that in the old days when both programs were really struggling. I think the NC State game is the big one. You know, the thing that I worry about, because I know what this fight is like. I've been around it for a long time. And, you know, let's say, for instance, that this team went 6-6. You know, I would caution fans to say, wait a minute, look, remember the name of the school. 6-6 was a record that you would die to have in most years. And, you know, how much do the fan expectations change, you know, because of what went on a year ago? I've actually talked to Clark's dad about it, and we both know that, you know, that could be a problem.
If you look at the back half of the schedule and kind of in the middle, it's tough with Georgia and Ole Miss. But honestly, the program's predicted kind of at the end of the projections of FCC Media Day. Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Florida, they're at Auburn. The schedule's not awful when you look at other programs. There's some opportunities there for Vanderbilt to have maybe 8-9 wins again.
You know, you're doing the exact same thing I do on the air, which is look at other people's schedules, and you're noticing these 4-week stretches where you might as well be playing the Seattle Seahawks. I think at the end of the year, I think the coaches are going to have an absolute Donnybrook with Greg Sankey about this 9-game thing.
Yeah, he was put to the ringer at SEC Media Day, as you know, George. He was in the firing zone.
Yeah, and look, the problem is it's now all about money, and he basically could say to him, hey, you need the money, so shut up. But these coaches are worried about this because not only is it 4 games in a row in a lot of cases, and you're right, Vandy's is not quite as bad as some, but there's a lot of schools that are going to go through these 4 games. Not only are they not going to win some of them that they need to, but physically they're going to get the crap beat out of them. And that's going to be really telling at the end of the year.
It's a really good home slate for Vanderbilt fans. Austin P. Delaware, NC State's at home, Ole Miss, Arkansas is at home, Alabama is at home, and then the Tennessee Volunteers close out the year inside Vanderbilt State. So excited to see you, George, in a couple of weeks when Ole Miss comes over to face Vanderbilt in Nashville. Let's grab a bite to eat, and very much appreciate you jumping on today.
Listen, let me apologize on the front end for the way we had to do this. I can honestly say I've never done an interview, I don't think, in a rent-a-car. And that's what went on today. And, I know it, it probably looked like somebody was drinking, with the camera shaking and all. But thanks for putting up with me. You're a great friend, and we'll talk here soon.
We'll talk soon. Thanks, George. I appreciate George Platcher for joining us, previewing the Vanderbilt Commodores. It's Ole Miss and Vanderbilt coming up later on in the year. And just want to kind of bring you some previews for some different programs. Obviously, Ole Miss and Vanderbilt coming up. We had a chance to visit and hear from Justin Hawkinson from Auburn, and just so many different previews. Appreciate Hunt Palmer from LSU. And by the way, upcoming this week, we'll finish out with the Mizzou preview, Mississippi State preview with, of course, Brian Haydad of Sports Talk Mississippi. Appreciate Haydad joining us. And Allie Peak Wilbur will be here to preview the Florida Gators, and that will take us through the entire season. We've had previews from all of the Ole Miss opponents here, and really excited to see what Ole Miss has coming up against Louisville in a couple of weeks. We've got a loaded show for you next week, and then it is game week. And it's game week right here on the Talk of Champions. Couldn't do what we do without all of our sponsors, specifically Allen Samuels, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. We've got a big show coming up, a live remote from Allen Samuels coming up, the game week of Charlotte. So that will be on Friday afternoon, the Friday before Charlotte, probably around 3 to 5. Somewhere around in there, and we've got a live remote from Allen Samuels. Also, want to say a special thank you to Barstool in Nashville. They'll be hosting us along with the Ole Miss Alumni Association. Ben Garrett and I will be live from 2 until 4 on Broadway at Barstool Nashville. That's, of course, presented by Allen Samuels, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, and all of our sponsors right here on the Talk of Champions. If you miss any of the shows, you can see all of them right below us here on our YouTube channel. You can go back and watch them on demand. Secondly, if you like our audio versions, those are all available on Apple, Spotify, and, of course, Apple Music, not Apple Music, but Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast. Ben Garrett and I will be with you live next week, starting tomorrow, as we're 2 weeks away from kickoff between Ole Miss and the Louisville Cardinals. Appreciate everybody that joins us. Thank you for subscribing, rating, and review us here on the Talk of Champions. We'll talk to you soon, and appreciate everybody jumping in for kind of a, I guess you could say, a Sunday afternoon where we kind of like to get together and talk about things. And as the interview was airing with George Plaster, I can guarantee you what's going to lead the show tomorrow on Monday. Daquan Wright was just cut by the Cleveland Browns, and now guess where he's headed? He's headed to LSU. The question remains now, as this is all happening in real time. Ross Dellinger of YahooSports.com, friend of the program, posted just a little bit ago. The one thing that could be different than what has been talked about before is this may not be viewed as just like a transfer between Ole Miss and LSU, since Daquan Wright, actually, this is crazy to say, but goes from Ole Miss to the NFL to the Cleveland Browns and now to LSU. Is that how you break that protocol? We have heard, all of us here on the show, everybody watching and listening here. Here's the thing. We've seen that Greg Sankey's been very adamant that the rules of transfer from school to school are going to be adhered by. But once again, is this a loophole? I don't know. I mean, it very well could be. I mean, the last time Daquan played college ball was for Ole Miss. Then he went to the NFL. So like Tommy says here, LSU will sue for a TRO, so he'll be available to play. That very well could be what happens. I just don't know. I mean, there's so many unknowns, and gosh, this is just not the college football that we all kind of grew up on. As James points out, Daquan Wright is headed to LSU. So appreciate everybody jumping on, all of your comments. We do very much appreciate it. And James, Sudu is doing great. I talked to him. We were supposed to do a pregame or preseason preview on Friday. Was not able to get that done, but we will have a preseason preview on Mudcat Media. That's another entity that we partner with. So we're excited to be able to do that. It'll be Ben Garrett, Sudu, Upadea, and I. And so we're excited to have that preseason preview. But Sudu is doing great. He's staying really busy, and everybody's staying really busy. So, but we're going to get together very, very soon and do that show. So appreciate everybody for jumping on. But yeah, as soon as we were re-airing the George Plaster interview. George, of course, covers Nashville area media, sports, if you will, and he's very, very close to the Vanderbilt program. So we're watching that one, and all of a sudden, there it goes. So Daquan Wright is headed back from the Cleveland Browns to the LSU Tigers. I would guess that if the SEC steps in, I don't know if he'll play or not. Obviously, he's a great player, and we all remember the big catch against LSU last year. Whenever he caught the ball and he kind of sat down, and Ole Miss beat LSU last year. But whether or not he plays or not, I don't know. But I will be generally interested to see what, if anything, will come out of the SEC office, because Commissioner Sankey has been very steadfast that he will not stand for interconference transfers. This could be an interconference transfer, and it could not be, like Ross pointed out. So I don't know if that's what LSU's standing by, but I'm going to kind of lean to. I just saw something that Michael Borky of Sports Talk Mississippi posted on X, and I agree with Michael. Whether or not, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree with the direction that LSU is going with its roster, with going after Daquan Wright. I mean, they're trying to win games, and this right now, there is no right or wrong. I mean, everything is subjective. But like Michael said, you have to at least appreciate the audacity that LSU is doing everything possibly to win games. And once again, I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I hate what a lot of things that are happening right now, but if anything, you have to kind of applaud that LSU's like, we're here to win, and it may be a little shady, it may not be. My goodness, so much to talk about for next week on the Talk of Champions. So kind of some fireworks that happened here at 5 o'clock or 5:08 Central here in Mississippi. Daquan Wright has been cut by the Cleveland Browns, and his representation has pointed out he intends to come back to college and play for the LSU Tigers. You could not script it any different for how crazy this world of college athletics is. I'm Brad Logan. We'll be seeing you tomorrow. We'll be live at 2 o'clock. Ben Garrett will be live here on the Talk of Champions. And 2 o'clock the rest of the week. We've got tons of interviews, Florida preview, Mississippi State preview. Also, I meant to add, too, Chris Phillips will join us at some point this week. He is, of course, with SEC Unfiltered. I look forward to talking with Chris. He'll be joining us here on the show. We'll get his thoughts on the SEC and what he is excited to see in the first couple of weeks of the season. We'll talk to you soon right here on the Talk of Champions. Stay locked into the Ole Miss Spirit. That's onspirit.com. That is, of course, an affiliate of On3. You can join by hitting that QR code right there, or hit the link below. That's omspirit.com. We'll talk to you soon right here on the Talk of